Alien Blood. It's one of my favorite finishes to do, and today I'm going to be throwing it down on a Japanese Super Strat from the 1980s. This is going to be a fun one. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified every time a new episode is released. This is Trash to Thrash. For more than 20 years, I've been obsessed with guitars. From playing them, to working on them, to buying and collecting them, I've built quite the collection of awesome custom guitars. This season, I'll be rebuilding guitars sent in by fans of the show. I'll be rebuilding 14 guitars over 14 weeks, each with a unique and interesting backstory. I'll be refinishing, refretting, rewiring, whatever it takes to make these things into the guitars of their dreams. This is Trash to Thrash. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Trash to Thrash. I'm your host Mark Murray, and today we're going to be working on this 1985 Fender Stratcaster from the Contemporary series. This guitar was sent in to me by my customer Jason, who had seen a couple of the Alien Blood finishes I had done before, but wanted a unique twist on it. Normally when I do Alien Blood, it's flat black with gloss green splatter, but he wants the whole job in gloss, so that's what we're going to do on this one. Not only is it going to be getting the Alien Blood paint job, but we're also throwing some Fishman pickups in it, and of course, an Iron Age kill switch. Here's a closer look at Jason's 1985 Fender Contemporary Stratocaster. These guitars were originally available in all kinds of different pickup configurations, but this specific one originally came with just a bridge pickup and a volume knob. It features Fender Rotomatic tuners, and the string lock at the headstock is original, as is the bridge, which is a Fender System 1 made by Schaller. It's a floating tremolo that was Fender's answer to the Floyd Rose, which, while it doesn't have individual string height adjustments, it can be replaced with a licensed Floyd Rose. Floyd Rose posts don't match the exact post distance of this guitar, but some licensed Floyd Roses have a flat edge on one side, which would be a direct replacement for this guitar's bridge. The Fender Contemporary series were made in Japan between 1984 and 1987, and they were the first Fender guitars from Japan to be exported. All other exports from Japan before that were branded under Squier. CBS sold Fender to their current owners in 1984, so there was a 3-year transitionary period where there were no USA Fender models made. There were some old stock models left around that they had sold, and there was the Japanese line. The contemporary models featured alder or basswood bodies with maple necks, sometimes with rosewood, sometimes with a maple fretboard, sometimes with a pickguard, sometimes no pickguard, and sometimes with coil taps and sometimes no coil taps. They featured floating bridges and humbuckers and were really made to be super strats. They featured a thin D-shaped neck with a 12-inch radius and a micro-tilt adjustment for fine-tuning of the neck angle. The original Contemporary series were built between 1984 and 1987, but they brought back the Contemporary series a few times since then. The original Fender Contemporary series were built between 1984 and 87, but they've done a few different runs of Contemporary models since then over the years.
Hey Mark, just a quick history on the Fender Contemporary you got. It's a 1985 model. I think I got it when I was 13 or 14 years old. My mother bought me that, and it's one of the only things I have left from my mother. She passed when I was 27, and that's the reason I'm having you rebuild it for me. I wanted it to look nice again. I'll never get rid of that thing, and it means a lot to me. So appreciate all the work that you're putting into it. But that guitar has been through a lot. It's been modified a few times, been painted several times, and I know you're having to put a lot of work into it to make it nice again. So appreciate the work, and can't wait to see it.
Jason sent me this photo as a representation of what it looked like when he originally got it in 1985. You can see it was a cream color, it had a single humbucker and a single volume knob. Jason's a bit of a tinkerer, and over the years he added a neck pickup, a mini toggle switch, and this is what the guitar looked like at one point. You can see it went through stages of black, blue, metallic silver, and then it was stripped down like this when I got my hands on it. This guitar's been around a while. It's even a little older than me. To put it into perspective of how long he's had this guitar, here's a photo of Jason with the guitar and his son. Granted, he's had this guitar for about 15 years in this photo, and here's that same son now. By the way, who also plays guitar. Good on you, Jason, for creating another metalhead in the world. Now, the plan for this guitar is going to be to refinish it with gloss black and green Alien Blood splatter over it. Of course, we'll be painting the headstock to match with a matched neon green Fender logo. This bridge is actually pretty nice, so we'll be taking it completely apart, re-oiling it, cleaning it, and putting it back together. For the electronics, we're going to go with a set of Fishman Keith Merrow pickups, which have 3 separate voicings that are going to be controlled by a 3-way toggle switch. Right now the pickups are controlled using a mini toggle switch, but we're going to replace that with a full-size Les Paul style toggle switch. And to top it off, of course, we'll be throwing in an Iron Age kill switch with a green LED to match the alien blood. That's not all this guitar is getting, but I'll show you more along the way. And now it is time to hand this guitar off to my shop assistant Ryan, who always disassembles my guitars and organizes the parts. Then he brings them outside and sands them down and preps them for paint. Once Ryan was finished with all that, he handed the guitar back to me, and I started planning out how the electronics are going to lay out. I drew a straight line through the 2 existing holes and added a point where a 3rd hole is going to go that's equally distanced the same as the other 2 holes are. Right now the guitar has a single volume knob and a mini toggle switch that lets you switch between the 2 pickups. We're going to keep the volume as a volume, but the 2nd hole is going to be drilled out for a full-size pickup selector switch. The 3rd hole that we're adding will be for a kill switch, and then we'll have to add a 4th hole for a new mini toggle switch that will control the different voicings for the pickups. We're going to be replacing the pickups that are in this guitar with a set of Fishman pickups that use an additional mini toggle switch to control different voicings that these pickups have, meaning it has 3 different tones in one pickup. Now we've switched locations. You can see the whole pattern here, but now we're in the paint booth. So we're going to start laying on the first layers of paint, just some black gloss. This guitar has been painted many times in the past, so the grain is mostly sealed, but this is going to be like a light scratch coat that we're going to sand down and give it a nice heavy coat afterwards too. With unpainted bodies, you need to fill the grain, or else when you paint it, the paint runs right down into the grain and you get a bunch of low spots in the paint. But this guitar felt really smooth after we sanded it down, and I decided let's throw some paint on it and see what it looks like. Another thing when you're painting an unfinished guitar is that you need to prime it. The paint I'm using here is Rust-Oleum 2X, which is a paint and primer in one. As I suspected, there were some low spots, so I sanded the guitar back down and then used some wood filler for body repair. Then it was back into the paint booth for 3 heavier coats of gloss black. Everything's looking really good on this guitar, so this is going to be the final black paint that I put on here. The black paint has been drying for about 10 minutes, and now it's time to throw the splatter on. You don't want to wait till the paint's completely dry because it's not going to get that chemical bond that you get from putting wet paint on top of other wet paint. You also don't want to do this when the black paint is completely wet because then it's going to make the black paint run and possibly crack. So you want to wait about 10 minutes after you sprayed the black and then throw the splatter. Once the paint actually dries, you'll want to scuff it up before you start throwing extra paint on it. Then you'll get a mechanical bond. Paint only sticks to other surfaces if it has a chemical or a mechanical bond. Now that most of the splatter's on, I'm using a small brush that I'm dipping into the paint and just flicking small specks of paint at the guitar. This gives it a really full... This gives it a more realistic splatter effect and also fills in and balances out the rest of the guitar against the spots that have the heavier splatter. In the background of working on the body, I've also been working on the neck, which was previously painted, so I'm sanding it back down, filling all the damage with wood filler. Then we'll be painting the back of the guitar and the back of the neck flat black. The packaging of the wood filler says that you can work with it within 15 minutes and sand it. But in my experience, I think it's best to dry for at least 24 hours because it has a tendency to pull out when you go to sand it. Now I've given it a wipe down with some alcohol, taped off the fretboard, and just like with the body, I'm going to be using a paint and primer in one. So now this neck is ready to go out into the paint booth and get some black paint. I'll be painting the back of it flat black and the face of the headstock gloss black. I started with the flat black on the back and gave it 3 nice coats. Then I let that dry for a few days, gave it a light sanding with some 800 grit sandpaper, and came back and gave it 3 nice coats of clear matte. I let the back of the neck cure for about a week, and then I came back and did the gloss black on the face of the headstock. Again, we went with 3 coats of gloss black on the front, let it dry for about 15 minutes, and then came back with some neon green alien blood splatter. Throwing splatter on a guitar, you ride a fine line of deciding how much splatter to throw on. If you throw too much, there's no going back. If the consistency of the material is too thin and it runs, it doesn't look right. And if you don't do enough splatter, of course you could always add it on, but it will look empty and it won't look complete. There's also a ton of different style splatter jobs, so depending what your personal taste is, it might be hard to get exactly what you're looking for.
I've been building custom guitars for years now, and through social media, I've started to become friends with other builders and painters, including Ryan Dominguez of ESP USA. He's their head painter, and we've exchanged a lot of tips and techniques over the years. He's helped me a ton. When he saw my Alien Blood finishes when I first started doing them, he fell in love with them and reached out to me and asked me, would it be okay if ESP started using these paint jobs and used that name? So if you ever see an Alien Blood ESP USA guitar, know that was influenced from Guitar Guts.
Normally when I add my headstock logos, I cut a vinyl decal, put it on the headstock, and then I clear coat over this. But this time I'm actually going to paint the logo on, and I've used my vinyl cutter again, but to make a stencil of the Fender logo. The reason I'm doing it this way on this guitar is because I want this green to match the paint perfectly. I bought some other green vinyl, but I'm not sure it's the exact same shade, and I'm not going to take a risk. With the risk of the paint possibly peeling up with the tape, I didn't want to lay it on too thick, so I just put on 2 healthy coats of the green. This is the same vinyl stencil material that I used to make the perfect circle cutouts on the Van Halen Circles guitar a few weeks back. It did a pretty good job, but there were a couple spots that didn't look as perfect as I had hoped, so I busted out the paintbrush and touched them up by hand. As long as it's brushed on smoothly, the fact there was a little touch-up will be undetectable underneath the clear coat. Another really cool custom feature I did on this guitar that I hadn't done on any guitars before yet was painted this small stripe that's on the Fishman pickups. This stripe is so small I had to tape it off, I couldn't just freehand it. Later on in this episode, after I remove the tape, you're going to see how awesome these look, and this is definitely going to have to be a feature on more custom guitars going forward. Now all the paint and the splatter has dried, and it's time to clear coat over everything. For this guitar I want to build up a real thick clear coat, so I'm going to be using a Henson polyester clear coat. When I mix my clear coats, I like to use a syringe so I get real precise measurements. This specific product I'm using here only uses 2% hardener versus 98% clear coat. This polyester clear coat will dry so fast that I have to clean the gun every 2 coats that I spray, or it completely hardens inside the gun. It only takes about 20 to 25 minutes before it becomes a soft gel, so you gotta work pretty quick with it. When you do multicolor paint jobs like crackle, splatter, multicolor stripe paint jobs, you get a lot of different depths of paint built up, and it becomes hard to get a perfectly level clear coat on it. So because of this, I'm going to do 6 coats of clear now, let it dry for a few days, then give it a light level sanding. I won't go crazy and get it perfectly level, but I'm going to get it in the ballpark. I'll use 600 grit sandpaper for that. Then I'm going to bring it back out here and throw another 6 coats of clear on it. I want this thing to have showroom mirror-like finish and gloss. This is a polyester clear coat, not to be confused with polyurethane. Polyester is far superior, much harder, much more durable paint job, and it dries and cures way faster than a polyurethane paint job would.
This episode of Trash to Thrash is sponsored by Iron Age Guitar Accessories. You guys know I'm obsessed with kill switches. I put them in basically every guitar I build, but Iron Age makes a lot of other really cool stuff too, including custom picks. Here's a couple of Guitar Guts custom picks that they made me, and they do custom engraving, all kinds of different cool materials. You can see this one here is a acrylic spearhead. And they even make the pick of destiny. How cool is that?
I also recently just got some custom Guitar Guts knobs made with glow-in-the-dark fill on the top. This is now going to be an option moving forward when people order custom guitars.
These knobs are only available through me, so DM me or email me if you want them. But if you want to get your own custom engraved knobs with glow-in-the-dark filler in them, go hit up Iron Age Accessories. Of course, use GG-10 at checkout. You get 10% off using my code. So go click the link down in the description. Use the code GG-10 at checkout. Get 10% off your custom kill switches, knobs, picks, whatever. I love these guys, and I think you will too.
Now let's check in with Ryan, who's been working on building a new set of rear cavity covers out of clear material. This is something I love on custom guitars, when you can see the inside of the wiring and you can see the tremolo springs on the back of the guitar. But that's not the only reason we're doing clear covers on this guitar, and we'll get to that later. A key feature for these rear cavity covers is to countersink the screw holes, so when you screw them in, the screws sit nice and flush in the body. After he finished the cavity covers, he turned his attention to the Fender System 1 bridge. There's a little bit of pitting on the chrome, but overall it looks pretty good. Just needs a good cleaning and oiling. So that's exactly what he did. He took everything apart, every screw out of it, cleaned everything, put a little bit of oil on all the threads of everything and all the moving parts, and then reassembled it all. Everything looked to be in good working order. There was a couple of missing screws, and I found some that would work. Although they didn't match exactly perfect, they'll be close enough since nothing else is really available out there. This is a really interesting bridge. Apparently it was made by Schaller. I believe these bridges were exclusive to the Fender Contemporary series, and some of the Japanese exports to the UK even had Kahler bridges that were made in the USA. Ryan also disassembled the locking nut,
cleaned it up really good, and got it looking beautiful. After a ton of sanding and polishing, this thing looks awesome. Gloss black is the hardest color to pull off, and this is mirror-like. It looks gorgeous. The back of it looks super nice. It's a clean, flat black, and this guitar is ready to start getting put back together. The Fishman pickups are mounted in their rings. The green stripe on them looks absolutely awesome, and it matches the paint perfectly because it's the same paint. I've wired hundreds of guitars, but this is my first time wiring a set of Fishman. Here's the diagram I'm going to want to use that uses a 3-way mini toggle switch to control the different voicings of the pickups. It looks pretty basic, nothing too crazy here. There are a couple extra control wires, but no big deal. When I went to go route the cables for the pickups, I found that the original holes going through the guitar were too small for all the wires needed for Fishman pickups. I have this super long drill bit that's about 3/16 of an inch, and at this angle it should pop out right about where I want it. Okay, well, it didn't come out exactly where I wanted it. It actually came out near the tremolo spring cavity, so I'm drilling another hole from there over to the control cavity, and I'm going to route one set of pickup wires through the back and one set through the front. I don't think I'm actually going to be able to get the angle to get the two humbucker cavities to match up, so this is going to work perfectly fine. Each one of these pickups actually has so many wires that I don't think they all would have fit from the bridge pickup cavity to the control cavity anyways. While I'm here, I might as well add on the tremolo claw. Now at this point, it's just a ton of wiring, hooking up the pickups, getting the kill switch wired in, hooking up the stereo output jack. Now at this point, the pickups are just about wired up, the kill switch is getting wired up, and I'm adding in the final touch to the wiring. One of the reasons we're doing the clear covers on the back is so we can add some green LEDs. LEDs can't run off a 9-volt battery, so I'll need to use these resistors, which I'm going to leave in a clear tube and install under the back tremolo cover. I love all the small details of a custom guitar, like this, custom painted matched batteries, especially when the guitar has clear cavity covers. You're going to see the battery. Why not make it part of the piece? Now the wiring is just about done, and it's time to add one of the finishing touches. The blood splatter battery. Make sure all the wiring detailing is looking good. Put some padding under the battery, and then close up the clear cover on the back. And now it's down to the final finishing touches, like adding the bridge and the tremolo springs, reinstalling the tuners and the locking nut. And that is one awesome looking headstock. Beautiful shine on that clear coat, and that green just pops so hard against the black. Next, I strung it up with some Ernie Ball 942 Slinkies. Then replaced the rear tremolo cover, and look at this thing. Look at that glossy clear coat on there. With a guitar like this, you don't even need a mirror in the house. You can get ready in the morning just looking in the reflection of this guitar. This is definitely one of the best clear coats I've ever put on a splatter paint job. I love all the green details. The Iron Age kill switch, the green lines on the Fishman pickups, the green LEDs on the back. Of course, the clear covers. And the wiring was done real clean. You can see the resistors, you can see the green wire that was used to match the guitar inside there. This is another one I'm very happy with how it turned out. Even the Alien Blood Splatter battery, I think it just looks so cool in there. Normally a battery would be an eyesore, but in this case, it's a perfect addition to the piece. What do you think of the Alien Blood? Let me know down in the comments below what you think of this paint job, and if you were to get a splatter painted guitar, what color combination would you go with? Personally, it's hard to beat Alien Blood, but I've got some really cool stuff coming up. I got a few tricks up my sleeve that you guys are going to really love. Stuff that I haven't seen anybody else do. We're just getting started over here. Now, let's plug it in and shred this beast. Alright, thanks so much for watching everybody, I really appreciate it. Thanks for hitting that like button, leaving your comments down below. sharing the episode on your social media with all your friends. I really appreciate it. What'd you guys think of the Alien Blood? Let me know down in the comments below, and also let me know if you were to get a splatter guitar, what color combination would you go with? Special thanks to Jason for sending your guitar in. If you want to send your guitar in and have me rebuild it for an episode of Trash to Thrash, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com, and give me a little bit of information about the guitar, maybe send me some pictures of it and what you'd want done to it. If you enjoyed my jam there, you can find that song over on my Spotify page, my email, my Spotify, all my links are down in the description below. Be sure to go to guitarguts.com to get your Guitar Guts kill switch or your Guitar Guts kill boost pedal. And remember, you can always find this show directly at guitarguts.tv. As many of you guys know, we do a monthly guitar raffle over on my Patreon page for all my CEO tier followers. So go sign up to my Patreon. It's $10 a month, and every month you're entered into a raffle to win a guitar. Of course, there's no purchase necessary ways to win as well. So follow me on Instagram for some of that information, at GuitarGuts on Instagram. Be sure to tune in next week to see us turn an old Silvertone into a metal shred machine called Hellspawn. It's going to be awesome. I also want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Iron Age Guitar Accessories for sponsoring this episode. Be sure to keep watching the next few weeks' episodes. We got a bunch more giveaways coming up from EMG, Iron Age Accessories, SoCal pedal boards, and Lundgren pickups. I'm also working on a couple of really cool deals right now where people are sending me their guitars to rebuild, and as payment, they're actually giving me trade-ins. They're old guitars they don't even want anymore that I'm going to then take and rebuild on the show and then sell. So if you got some old guitars lying around and you want me to do some work for you, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com, and let's talk. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next week here on Trash to Thrash. Rock on, my friends.